Hi, I'm Marc Richard, and you're listening to Pure Talk, the podcast where we talk about life, health, and living pure. On today's very first episode, we're joined by President and CEO of Pure Pharmacy, Mr. Bob Mehr. Bob has been the owner of Pure Integrative Pharmacy for over 20 years, and he's grown that pharmacy to now 15 locations in the province of BC. Bob tells us today why he chose pharmaceutical sciences and why Pure Integrative Pharmacy is unlike any other pharmacy you've ever seen. This is Pure Talk. I know you a lot better than most people, so just for our listeners, I wanted to go back a little bit further than maybe you're expecting. Let's go back to the beginning and why pharmacy. So
Sure.
why coming out of high school, did you have that urge in high school, or why did you pick pharmaceutical sciences?
Believe it or not, it goes back actually when I was probably, I would say, 8, 9 years old. And my dad used to take me to this, neighborhood community pharmacy, which was just around the corner of where we were living. And I just loved the look of this pharmacist wearing this white coat, and the smell of the pharmacy was, quite refreshing for me. It may sound, pretty strange, but the fact was that every time we had any kind of illness, if it was a cold, if it was the itch, if it was an allergy or cough, anything, my dad would always take me to him, and he always had the right remedy to give me. So to me, it was like I realized that, wow, this is like a magical place. You go there, you get something, you come home, and you take it, and you feel great. So I always had this, this view towards the pharmacy, and I always loved the fact that this guy was making his own medication. He was mixing creams, and he was giving it to us. I was going home, I was applying it, and the stuff was working. So I would say that was always in the back of my mind. And I graduated from high school, and I took a few years off because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Of course, when you're in high school, everybody wants you to be either a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer or a businessman, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just went into the workplace, and after a few years, it was interesting that memory from my childhood came back, and I decided to apply for the School of Pharmacy at UBC. And I was lucky enough that I got in, and I wouldn't turn back, and I wouldn't change anything.
And then when you get into pharmaceutical sciences at UBC, was it exactly what you thought? Did it bring back those childhood memories?
The first year didn't.
Yeah.
The first year I was almost about to quit because it was just a lot of theories, and it was a lot of chemistry, which was interesting. I was it was definitely an excitement for me, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I got into second year, we started to learn about therapeutics, we started to learn about diseases, how medications work, how symptoms can be relieved by certain medications, and then of course we got into the laboratory part of the pharmacy, and that's where I started having a true passion for it. And it got into I got so excited about it that in my third year of the university at the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, I went to the dean of the faculty, Dr. John McNeil, and I said, Dr. McNeil, I'm interested in research, and I would love to collaborate and do some sort of research along with you. And he kind of looked at me and said, well, you're not even a graduate student yet,
Mm-hmm.
What are you interested in? And I picked up a topic that, again, I cannot recall how I came up with that topic, and I said I want to see the effect of magnesium, on the heart of the diabetic patients. And he said, what? Let me put you together with the nutrition, the doctor of nutrition that she was working with him, and three of us we collaborated, and we started this study, which took about almost 2 years, and we were able to actually publish that in the Journal of Magnesium in Germany, and
Wow.
we proved that magnesium can actually help with the diabetic patients who are having cardiac problems and their heart muscles is not working as well.
Right.
So
Wow.
everything happened for a reason in
Mm-hmm.
my life. I would always look back and I would think that how did I started going into pharmacy? How did I started to get into the natural part of the pharmacy? But it was a journey, and I think there was a purpose, there was a plan. The universe had some sort of journey for me that wanted me to just keep continuing it.
For sure. It's weird how do you think that it's ingrained in some people that the strive for knowledge, that they're always trying to learn, like you picking up magnesium and thinking this has to do something, right? And wanting to, it's weird how some people just find that naturally. Some people just have that drive for knowledge. I see it every day in you, right? Yeah. But it's weird how some people just don't take that initiative, and some people take it and run with it and turn it into a published article like you did.
Yeah,
right?
I have to say, I have to give the credit to to some of my profs at the university, and I never remember this doctor, Dr. Alan Mitchell. God bless, his soul. He's passed away a few years ago, but I remember him in our first year of university. He came and he said that you may get a degree here. You're gonna learn, some stuff here in these 4 or 5 years of your school, but the learning does not stop after you get your degree.
Mm-hmm.
All we are trying to do here at the university is teach you how you should learn, how you should find information. So that really stuck in the back of my mind. And since then, there is not a day that I get up in the morning and I don't read an article. Mm-hmm. Either, the latest, or if there's something of interest that I see out there, especially about health, because that's where my passion is. And I always pick up something from that. And sometimes I wonder that if I didn't have that, that curiosity to find about, the new stuff or even the old stuff, I would have never been able to achieve what we have achieved,
right.
to this day.
For sure.
So that, you're absolutely right. And, my encouragement to, to my daughters and, to all the young people is that never stop reading. Mm-hmm. Never, every day have something to read.
Right.
Even if it's about history, even if it's about, buildings, doesn't matter what it is, but
right.
read something every day.
Speaking of that curiosity, we fast forward now, you get out of school, and was that the dream to turn into a businessman? Was the dream you were going to work as a pharmacist every day, or what, did you always want to have your own thing? Did you always want to have your own shop, or how did that come about?
Well, because because of between my high school and going back to university, I was working in a work place, and I started having some interest towards business. So from the first year of pharmacy school, some of my friends, that they, some of them, they remember what I used to tell them. I used to tell them that I'm going to graduate, I'm going to become a pharmacist, but I'm also going to own my own pharmacies. And I didn't say pharmacy, right. I said pharmacies. So right. Again, it was, the blueprint that I was, planting. I was planting the seeds in the back of my mind, saying that I do want to, become a pharmacist. I want to become a clinical pharmacist. I want to, help, our patients, but I also want to do business as well too. So both sides were there from day one, right. From the first day that I got into university.
Yeah, you turned the key and opened the door on the first pharmacy you opened, which was in, the first one was on the island, correct?
It was on Vancouver Island, a small, beautiful community called Shawnigan Lake. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing community, and I'm so, grateful to the people of that community, even up to this day, and because I truly learned, the value of the community. Right. I started seeing one patient a day, but every day that patient became the second patient, mm-hmm. and then the third, and then the fourth, and the fifth, and before I knew it, majority of the community were coming to our pharmacy, and I learned, once you start caring and connecting with your patient, the word goes around. Mm-hmm. I did not do any advertising. I right. didn't send any flyers out. I didn't have any promotion. I didn't have any big companies behind me. Right. But I truly valued the people who were coming to our pharmacy, and I tried to connect with every single of them. And up to this day, even though I don't have that pharmacy anymore, mm-hmm. I opened that back in 1999, I still have connection not only with the people that I worked with in the pharmacy, but also with the people who still live there. We still keep our connection.
For sure. You have to, so many people don't even think of that, right? That the pharmacist is so tightly connected to your health. You get a prescription, you bring it in, and you think they're just, the man behind the curtain filling my bottle, right? Where they have a vested interest, right? And I've learned from joining Pure that they have a real vested interest in their patients. They think about it. They're not just going home and forgetting about it. They're actually, they're there to care and focused on, the individual's health, and not just pushing pills out the door, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you really look at it, we're the only healthcare professionals out there who you don't have to make an appointment to come and see us.
Of course.
You can walk into the door of any pharmacy, and you can have access to the pharmacist, right. And you can pick their brain, and you can ask any questions you want. And right. And 8, 9 out of 10, they do have the answer, and they do have the right remedy for you. Right. Because we learn all that.
Yeah, and 8, 9 out of 10 love that. Yeah. They want to be challenged, right? And they want those questions for sure.
Yeah. So we that's why it's so important for us as pharmacists to keep our professionalism, to keep our integrity up there, because the public trusts us, and we cannot abuse that trust.
For
We
sure.
have to make sure that we are transparent. We have to make sure we give them the right information, and by doing that, I think we've done all those years of of going to school that we've been taught to implement it.
Right, right. The tools of business and the tools of a pharmacist. I mean, those wouldn't normally collide. What did you find was the biggest challenge maybe of starting a business? And you didn't think it was going to be, you had a dream, of course, that it would become this big and still growing. But in the beginning, it's just ideas on your business and how you got around the challenges.
The challenges are in with every single business, right? But what I found and what I did, I didn't pay attention to any blockage. I didn't pay any attention to anything which would prevent me from moving forward. But again, when you start a business, you also always have to remember that the first few years are going to be hard. They're going to be tough. And of course, what's the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge is the finance, right? You don't have enough cash flow to get your business running. But those are the years that you need to sacrifice. And and again, I'm grateful to my family, to my wife, that she stood behind me. As again, another pharmacist in the family. She's also a pharmacist as well. And we both worked hard, and we both lowered our expectations because we knew this was our passion, and we wanted to build something. So in business, if you have that that patience, if you have that if you do make those small little sacrifices, eventually it's going to pay off. And if you really care about what you do and you care about your patients, the word of mouth will go around. They will come and they will bring their friends, they will bring their families, and before you know it, you have a successful business.
For sure. Yeah. Speaking of caring about what you do, I think it's safe to say you recognized early on that the traditional pharmacy model was not going to work, for you, right? It may work for other companies. It definitely wasn't going to work for you. So the intersection of bringing Western medicine and more alternative healthcare together under one hub, what led you to realize that was the way to go, and how did you achieve that?
I would say there was a couple of turning point and like very special moments in my practice, and I'm again grateful that it happened in the early days of my practice, coming out of university, that made me to think that there's got to be something else out there. We haven't gone to school for so many years and come out and just count pills and just tell patients take this with food, take that without food, take it on empty stomach, take it 3 times a day. That's not all we learned, and our job is much more higher than that. And what I saw failures in our healthcare system. When I experienced a patient dying in front of me just because of mixed diagnosis and just because of lack of knowledge, I realized that we really have a role, we have a responsibility, we have an ethical responsibility to inform our patients, to know about their health, because if they know about their health, then if something is happening to them, they can prevent it. So that was one of the turning points. The second one was that I kept, dispensing certain medications for, certain condition, and I saw the patients would start with one. Next thing I knew, they would come back and they would get the second medication to offset the side effect of the first. Then later on, they would come get the third medication to offset the side effect of the second one. Now we have 3 problems here, and it was just a vicious cycle. And when I started opening my eyes out and seeing what else is out there, I came towards, complementary medicine. I came towards a whole new area of medicine, which we were not exposed even 1 minute at university about this.
Yeah.
And when you look, outside, you realize, wow, there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of research behind it. Because at the end of the day, we're pharmacists. We have to practice evidence-based medicine. But the evidence-based medicine from the natural part, unfortunately, was kind of hidden from us. But once I started exploring that, I realized, wow, they can be very powerful. And the beauty of what I have, realized, and over the last, 20-odd years of practice, have been when you combine these 2, amazing modalities, like conventional medicine and complementary medicine, you get such a powerful force, which truly empowers and inspires the patients to come to the perfect health,
right,
and to feel better. So
sure.
that has been phenomenal in my practice.
Absolutely. Alternative medicine is also looked at preventative medicine.
Right.
And so why is it, I don't, understanding the psyche of every patient, who knows, but it's interesting how patients don't think about their health until they need it.
Yeah.
Right. And what do you think what is that? Is that a Western thinking? Is that, why do patients think, I'm fine until something goes wrong, and then I take a drug and I'm better and I move on, and I again repeat the same cycle, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think? Where do you think that mindset comes from?
Again, it comes, from it truly comes from our healthcare system. It comes from, first of all, it comes from the places where we're getting our education.
Right.
We are not. Right now things have changed. The universities have opened up their doors to towards complementary medicine, and right here I just want to make a small little differentiation between alternative and complementary medicine. Sometimes we call it alternative. The word itself is saying that, well, I won't take this, but I'll take this because this is an alternate. In my opinion, the natural medicine is a complementary medicine, because sometimes you may need this conventional, but you also need to complement it with a natural remedy in order to get the best effect out of it. But to answer your specific questions regarding why we are not going after prevention, I think it's our healthcare system is not aimed towards holistic approach. Our medical system only wants to put a band-aid. We've got a cut, we put a band-aid on, it's stopped. Right? But let's find out why we are bleeding, right?
Yeah.
I have a high, let's say you go to your doctor and doctor says, what, you got a high cholesterol, let's give you statin, prescription, let's give you an anti-cholesterol medication. Well, find out, why is my cholesterol up? Maybe I have inflammation.
Right.
Maybe there's stress in my body or in my life which is causing that inflammation, which is causing the cholesterol to go and and heal that part, and of course then the cholesterol levels goes up. So if you look at it from the holistic approach, then you can start looking into preventative medicine.
Right.
Long time ago, I had a few years ago, there was an amazing functional medicine doctor that I had the privilege to get to know her, and she's moved on to to California now, and she told me about in our lifetime, we start from beginning, this is where we were born, and then this is where we finish. And she said most of the times, majority of times we do extremely well all the way up to here, which is almost 2/3 of the way, and then all of a sudden we either drop or we start getting symptoms, we start getting conditions, and then we wake up and we want to do something about it. She said, wouldn't it be nice if we could start here? Because if we start here, we are meant to continue being here without any problem, without having any condition, without having any disease. But if we start too late, then it is too late.
For sure. That's an interesting thought that nobody ever yet.
So that always stays in the back of my mind. And whenever I'm talking to my patients they ask me about, preventative. What do you mean by preventative? I just use this analogy, and and they get it.
Right.
They truly get it.
Right.
But sometimes it is too late.
That's
true. The sooner you start prevention from whatever it is, your lifestyle, your food, your exercise, your habits, the way you think, you start doing all this, the different, approaches towards being, having a perfect health, you won't get hypertension, you won't get, diabetes, you won't get, arthritis.
Right.
You can prevent cancer by doing that.
For sure. So you take this idea of holistic health, and let's move on to your second idea, was more of a compound pharmacy. So for me, when I'm explaining to my friends in layman's terms, I always take a compound as, if you take an Advil, that's one dosage for everyone. As a compound pharmacy, you can pull apart that Advil and change dosages of different things, the dosage of different things going in it. Is that correct? Is that
you use it perfectly fine. In a very simple word, compounding means custom making the medication for patients specific. So that means if a patient, let's say, has an allergic reaction towards a dye or a color or a filler in a capsules or in a liquid, through compounding, we can make that without that color. We can make it without that preservative. We can make it without that filler. Or let's say that you can't swallow a capsule. Well, we can make it into a liquid. Let's say you cannot take it as a liquid, then we can make it into a transdermal cream. Let's say you can't even, you don't get it absorbed from your skin, then we can make it into an intranasal spray or into a suppository. onto your eardrops. So there's so many different ways that we can custom make the medication so the patients can actually get the medication that the doctor wants him or her to take.
Right. And this concept is nothing new by far, right? I mean, it's been around for forever. Why is this not something that's so common? Why do we not see this in every pharmacy? Why is, there's only certain Pure, one of the bigger ones in BC, why the compound?
It's interesting because in old days, it was all compounding.
Exactly.
We're talking about 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It was all compounding. So you would go, and interesting enough, in a lot of times, the pharmacies used to be called druggists in North America, and they used to basically just put the powders together, wrap it in a piece of paper, or make it into a liquid, or make it into a little like troches, like lozenges, and in 1950s when the era of the pharmaceutical companies came into place, that's when the compounding started fading away, because there was a huge need for pharmaceutical drugs, and of course with mass production you didn't have to compound them anymore. But what happened over the era of the next 30-40 years, we started just making, for example, one of a kind, like one tablet or two tablets for 2-3 different strengths. And the compounding came back because we realized the pharmaceutical commercial available products cannot meet the needs of every single individual. Just like, as I said, in order to have a product out in the shelf for a long period of time, you need to put some preservative in it so you can actually keep it in the shelf for longer time.
Right.
So by having the compounding, we can make it fresh, we can make it without those preservatives, we can make it without the color, and now the patient is not going to have any reaction towards that particular drug.
Absolutely. So if someone's visiting their GP and their GP isn't familiar with compounds, how does a patient approach that? Can they still ask their GP to do it? Should they go to the pharmacist and talk to them about it?
Absolutely, yeah, they can still ask. I mean, that the good thing is when I started doing compounding back in in late 1990s, there was only like very, very few of us. Like I would say in the island there was maybe 2-3 of us, and in Vancouver maybe there was a couple of people who were doing compounding. And now I mean that there's a lot of pharmacies who are doing compounding, and so the doctors have got to know that there is a value behind compounding. But if the doctor is not does not know much about the compounding, the patients can definitely ask our pharmacists for information, and they will be more than happy to share that information with the physicians in order to help the patient. Right,
absolutely. In terms of the business on a whole, looking towards the future, what's your inspiration for Pure Pharmacy? Where
I see the inspiration that I see for Pure Pharmacy is that we truly want to be a hub of health for our patients. That means we may not have the answer, we may not have, all the remedies that the patients are looking for, but we want to be that hub. We want to be that center where patients can come and ask us the question so we can answer. If we don't have the answer, we want to be able to find the answers for them. The future that I see is that we can truly, give our patients the choices of both conventional medicine and complementary medicine, and also different areas of the health. As I said, exercise, diet, empower them, inspire them, and let them to have a place where they feel safe, where they feel that they're being cared for, and when they know there is actually somebody there who really wants the best for my health. That's where I see the Pure Pharmacy. That's where my vision is. I've worked pretty hard, to bring it to this point, and moving forward, I'm hoping that we can take this further and be able, to offer the same quality of the pharmacies, same quality of the natural health advisors, pharmacy technicians, remedies, products, and care. Not only in Greater Vancouver, area or Vancouver Island, but the rest of the British Columbia, and hopefully, eventually, you never know, it could be the rest of Canada. So
absolutely. Or let's go a global connection.
Or even globally. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So we want to get to a section of the podcast that we call Rapid Pure.
Sure.
So short questions, short answers. I know I've asked you a lot of long-winded questions.
No worries.
Let's go.
I'll try to be quick and short. How's that?
Okay. We'll give you a sentence or two. That's fair. First question is, what's harder to give up, coffee or alcohol?
I would say coffee.
For everyone? Or is that just for you?
I would say that's for me, and Yeah, for a lot of people, I think, that morning smell of coffee, I think, is
Contagious.
just out of heaven.
Right. Now, in terms of health benefits, though, is alcohol maybe better to give up than coffee?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's the most beautiful place you've ever seen?
The most beautiful place that I've seen, I have to say, was this little place, outside of Barcelona called Tarragona. Small little town, right by the water. There was a lot of history behind it. There was some ancient ruins, some ancient Roman ruins, and just magical. Just magical as far as not only the nature, but also the people and the culture as well.
Right. Wow. And I know you don't have a lot of time, but movie theater food. Do you have a movie theater ritual?
I used to have, absolutely. I used to have my popcorn and of course my Coca-Cola. But
Yeah.
I would say that was about 22 years ago. I gave that up, and now it's just water.
Just the water.
That's it. I just drink lots of water, and
Yeah.
and I enjoy the movie much better, and I don't hear the cracking of the popcorn in my mouth, and I can pay attention.
You just hear everyone around you instead.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It better be a good movie to keep your attention with just water for the entire time. Let's go. If you could choose any other career other than the one you have now, so you're not a pharmacist tomorrow, you wake up in the morning, what would you like to do?
To be honest with you, I would be a pharmacist again. I just can't think of any other professions which would satisfy me.
Right. We're gonna call that the right answer. Your all-time favorite musical artist?
I would say Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, from Queens, and
Yeah.
I've always liked his his style of music and just the passion he had for singing. And I was lucky enough to go and see his latest movie, and that just brought back the memories back again. And I realized why I've always liked this guy.
For sure. Yeah. They did well at the Oscars a couple weekends
phenomenal,
ago. Yeah,
phenomenal
definitely.
movie, and good acting and good music for sure.
Absolutely. You could enjoy it with just a water. That was
It
fine.
was it. That's all I had.
That's fine. And finally, Bob, our tagline for this podcast is living pure.
Right.
So if you took how to live pure, what do you think that means to you?
I would say, wake up every morning, go in front of the mirror, and just smile. That's the first thing that you want to do. That's going to bring the purity into your life, and have a purpose when you get up in the morning, and when you go at night, just be grateful.
Right.
That's how to live pure.
I think there's no better way to end than that. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thanks so much,
this.
Mark. It was fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.